I don't know if you guys saw this thing from the Vive performance test. Did you see anything else that was in there aside from the performance test? The performance test
is it more Half-Life 3 leak garbage?
Yes, it is.
Yes, of course it is.
So the performance test itself is it's the Portal demo that they've shown 100 times. And you just see bits and pieces of it in low res so we can figure out your specs. But the files that it installs to your computer is the same stuff that went up last time, all of this stuff, right? Like the L4D3 folder, the HL3.txt folder. Okay, so this is probably nothing. But also, Valve knows this stuff is in there. Yeah. So either they're just being jerks, or there was stuff.
I mean, they've been jerks about this a million times, though, right?
I mean, it's ridiculous. Of course, there has been stuff like there's no way they didn't start and stop development on those things. So it's like, of course, there are things that exist at Valve. Like, I don't know why why people are like, oh my gosh, there's something about. Like they mentioned the 3 letters HL3. It's like of course.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, because you had like Clint Hawking there for 5 years.
Yep.
Like he probably did something.
Have you guys talking?
Have you guys talking about it yet?
You talking about Jeremy?
Have you spoken about Half-Life a bunch on this podcast already?
A little bit. We talked about the HL3.txt leak or whatever it was that got pumped to Dota 2.
At this point, it's not worth Valve's money to actually make that game.
It's also not their business.
I mean, it's worth their money if they're like, hey, here's Portal 3 and Half-Life 3 Vive exclusive. Yeah. That's how you move $800 pieces of hardware.
If they announced Half-Life 3 for Vive and just dropped that.
They specifically said they're not doing that.
Have they really?
Which I was surprised by because I thought
so well.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that if they do those, they will do what they've done with the last 2 Half-Life games, which is
make them VR compatible.
Well, they didn't do those, but what they did with the last 2 Half-Life games was to basically reinvent the shooter format. And kind of revolutionize it. I mean, you look back at Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, and there's a clear pre-Half-Life school of shooters and a post-Half-Life school of shooters.
And a pre and post of Half-Life 2.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when those games came out, they changed the way shooters were made because they showed you can do new things with it. And if there is a Half-Life 3...
There probably isn't an opportunity to do that at this point.
Well, VR is the opportunity. It's like if Valve...
Yes, VR is.
If Valve decides, hey, we want to show the world how to make a VR shooter in a way that nobody has done yet, and we're going to perfect this and show the way forward, I think that's how they'll do it. But I'm not... I'm not convinced they're going to do that either.
Neither, but God, I wish they would.
Yeah, it'd be great.
If they released a bundle of Portal 3, Left 4 Dead 3, and Half-Life 3 for Vive, I would build a PC
At this
for that.
point, I don't even want a full game, right? Like, I just want an epilogue to the end of Episode 2.
You mean an Episode 3? Half-Life 2 Episode 3 is what you want.
But it doesn't even need to be like a full whatever, right? Like those Episode 1 and Episode 2, I think were like 2 to 5 hours each. And I don't necessarily need that. I just want closure on that cliffhanger. Because at this point, that's all I care about. Like, make a new Half-Life game that's a great shooter. I want that too. But more than anything, like, I just want resolution on that story. Because it goes in such a cool direction that they never paid off. Yeah. And it's just highway robbery.
I totally get why everyone wants Half-Life 3. It's just not worth it for them. Unless it's VR. People are going to hate it no matter what. Because the hype's so built.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And also, it's just... their time is better spent doing everything else that makes them tons of money than developing that game.
They're going to focus on Dota majors. They're going to focus on Counter-Strike updates.
They're
going to focus on free-to-play stuff.
Well, I mean, hardware. They have a bunch of people at Valve. Some of them are game developers. Some of them are hardware developers. Some of them are software engineers. Like the game developers are probably doing something or leaving. So they still have a bunch of people who make games there. So they're doubtlessly working on something.
Well, they're working on Dota 2, and they're working on TF2, and they're working on Counter-Strike.
That's what I would think. Updates for
well, I mean,
games.
Counter-Strike is done by Hidden Path.
I think Valve is involved.
Yeah, they're definitely involved, but that's Hidden Path.
I was going to say they're the publisher. They publish all things. That's true.
But yeah, I doubt very much that all the game developers working there are just updating.
There's absolutely secret projects, and that's kind of where this
for VR probably
weird VR amalgamation of stuff comes from. Is like Valve was very obviously using old assets from Half-Life 2 and Left 4 Dead 3 or whatever it was, right? Like they brought this stuff in. There's a dog model because dog is the best. And there's like a head tracking test that is just dog in an environment walking around. And it's like, okay, cool. They took Half-Life 2 stuff. They ported it to Source 2. And now it works in VR. It's just tests. And a lot of people are losing their minds like, this means Half-Life 3. It probably doesn't mean Half-Life 3. It probably means Valve was tinkering with stuff and they needed assets to tinker with.
Yeah.
But there's also like never before seen stuff in there, like different character models and levels and things like that.
Yeah, they've got artists who are doing stuff. It's like, again, it's just like, why is this a surprise that they have some stuff for Half-Life 3 that they've probably started and stopped 15 times?
It's not even necessarily that people are surprised. They are, but I think it's just they're interested in whatever. Like, Valve is such a mystery that to know literally anything about what they're doing is interesting.
But the stuff that they're pointing to here it doesn't tell us anything. Like, it is a text file.
There is some interesting stuff. So for me, sorry, Marty, they did a bunch of stuff with the Dota 2 International 5 stage, where it's like they built the stage and they built the player things, they built the Jumbotron, and it's like, cool, you could conceivably watch the International in VR, like as though you were at Key Arena.
But that's not Half-Life or Left 4 Dead or anything. It's like, it's not
but that's awesome for people like me who care.
It is specifically.
It's neat stuff, but it's not the stuff that people were excited about. It's like, oh my god, Half-Life 3. And it's like, no, that's not. No, so stop.
I kind of feel like the Half-Life 3 thing, because I agree with you. I think every time that there's something that's like, ooh, this is a thing that existed, I'm like, yeah, I feel like they would have been working on that for a long time. I'm not surprised things exist. I feel like it's just a community thing. It's like people being like, this is a thing that we like. Let's all get excited about it all the time. I don't think it's a
meme. It's a joke.
Basically, it's a meme, yeah. So it's not a thing that I think people take that seriously. They're just super excited about anything they can find so that they can share it with that community. Mm-hmm. So it's just an internet culture thing more than people actually thinking that it's amazing that Half-Life 3 files exist.
Yeah. Also, has anything ever lived up to the hype? Or has anything ever been worth the wait?
That's why it will fail.
Like, basically. Literally, has any game ever...
Releasing Half-Life 3 is like asking people to hate you.
Yeah.
I would say Dragon Age Origins is a pretty good example of that.
Was it that long?
That was in development for a long time. And you can even tell, like, going back and looking at it, like some of these areas were clearly made years before everything else because the graphics just aren't as good.
Yeah.
The Last Guardian?
That hasn't lived up to anything yet.
We don't know if Last Guardian or Final Fantasy 15.
Team Fortress 2 is another one that was in development hell for a long time.
Yeah.
And we saw versions of that were just straight up World War II, like photorealistic.
What was huge at the time.
Yeah, and it was iterated on and became a huge hit. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are definitely examples of things that have come out of these disastrously protracted development cycles and been okay or been good.
Yeah.
Was because I haven't played Dragon Age. Dragon Age Origins is the first one.
Yeah.
09.
And then people didn't really like 2.
Correct.
Is that right? I brought them both to the US with me, but I haven't played them yet.
Is Dragon Age 2 just called Dragon Age 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Inquisition's the third one?
Yes.
Which was announced as Dragon Age 3 and then changed.
Yeah. I mean, so
because EA.
But I mean, then there are plenty of examples where things did not really come together very well.
Yeah.
I feel like Destiny is also like, I mean, it's different in that it didn't go through development hell, but
that one didn't even have that long.
If it weren't so hyped, it might have been received differently.
Well, yeah, that one just didn't even have that long, and Watch Dogs either didn't even have that long of an announcement.
But they still had a lot of hype.
Yeah.
And it really screwed them over.
Well, yeah, Watch Dogs got into trouble for showing a vertical slice tech demo that wasn't really representative of what the final game became. So if you set all these sky high expectations and then don't hit them, it's like that's going to create some backlash.
Whereas like they haven't really done anything like that for Half-Life, and that they haven't really said anything.
They've made no promises whatsoever, including that there will be a game.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you can go back even further. Daikatana, like that was John Romero will make you his bitch. And
good old John
and
Romero.
then he did not.
He sure didn't.
Yeah, so it's like
I am no one's bitch.
There are a lot of examples of things just spinning out of control in development. It's like finally they shove it out the door. I mean, to a lesser extent, BioShock Infinite had that problem. Like that game was in development for a long time.
How many times was that delayed?
Oh God, many 100,000.
Yep.
I feel like it was 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think it's at least 4. Yeah,
it's somewhere between 4 and 100,000.
Yeah,
and that game came out good. But
it came out really good, but it just was
But it wasn't like it certainly didn't meet everybody's expectations.
And it was definitely a different game.
Than even what they showed originally with the Terras being dynamic and Elizabeth being more dynamic.
Yep.
And also that's another example of that reminded me when you said parts of the game looking significantly better, like the lighthouses at the end of Infinite. I'm like, oh, you probably developed this really recently because this looks way better than anything else in the game.
The lighting in here is ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah, they learn a lot of tricks along the way. Oftentimes, developers will make the opening of a game last or do another pass on it.
Yeah.
Because they'll have learned so much making everything else. And
That like, hey, let's go back and like,
let's make the first impression of our game
Incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they did that with The Last of Us, right? I think they made that first and then went back and
they
it
touched
remade it
up a
almost.
whole
Yeah.
bunch, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because that opening's
beautiful
gorgeous. Yeah.